often I find the more we align with our design, just like the more magic emerges for us. So yeah, I think that like I would just treat it as a thing that is playful. I also think that like there are aspects of our design that can really reveal the perfectionist piece. So I think there are pieces that can also speak to how to work with that best.
This is Your Kick-Ass Life podcast, episode number 363 with guest Erin Claire Jones.
This is the Your Kick-Ass Life podcast with Andrea Owen, a no BS guide to self-help and badassery. Because ladies, let's face it, life's too short for it to not kick ass. And here's your host, the girl who serves it up straight with a side of crazy, Andrea Owen.
Hey there, ass kickers. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I am so glad that you are here. Human design. That's what we're talking about today. And you know, I'm always out there looking for experts who can come on and talk to us about being our best self. How can we have more tools to become the best version of ourselves? And Erin Claire Jones is here to talk to us about something called human design. I especially love these kind of episodes where I don't know anything about what the expert is coming on to talk about. So I had so many questions for her, and this episode is packed full of great information. You are going to see parts of yourself, and you're probably also going to be very curious on how to find out your own human design. One quick warning though, Erin is a very fast talker. So if you're somebody who listens to your podcast on 1.5 times fast or 2 times fast, you might want to listen to it on regular speed. One quick announcement before I get into the show is that I currently have 2 openings for private one-on-one coaching, and this is a really exciting announcement. I recently became a She Recovers coach, which means I am trained in and my work aligns with the She Recovers intentions and guiding principles. So Dawn Nickel, who was on this show in my recovery series, if you remember that from a few years ago, we'll drop the link to the show notes for the entire recovery series, as well as my interview with Dawn Nickel. And she has this certification process for women who are going through recovery. And it's not necessarily from drinking, because as Dawn says, and She Recovers says, we're all recovering from something. But I had a lot of people who were inquiring if I specifically help women who are thinking maybe that their drinking is getting the best of them, and they want to experiment with trying to moderate or trying to quit altogether. Let's have a conversation. I'm happy to talk to you about if we are a good fit to work together. And also my lead coach, Liz Applegate, has a couple of openings for one-on-one. So if I'm not a good fit, we can certainly see if Liz is as well. So you can just shoot an email over to support@yourkickasslife.com or head on over to yourkickasslife.com/coaching, and you can fill out an application over there, and we'll see if it's a good match. All right. Human design. I can't wait for you to hear this. But let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. Erin Claire Jones uses human design to help thousands of individuals and companies step into their work and their lives as their truest selves and to their highest potential. Her work as a guide, coach, and speaker has attracted a growing community of over 70,000 people who turn to her teachings for practical tools, digestible tips, and a deeper self-knowledge they can access to live with greater ease and authenticity every single day. With work featured in Forbes, Mind Body Green, Well and Good, and Nylon, Erin's insights are highly sought after because they make human design pragmatic, tangible, accessible, and immediately applicable to everyday life. Erin, thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me.
I was telling you before we started recording that I controlled myself and didn't do mad research, Google searching about what is human design. I have a very vague knowledge of it, but I'm still kind of like, is it astrology? Is it like the Enneagram? Like, what is it? And so can we start with that? Like, what is human design?
Of course. So human design is a system like astrology based on your exact time, date, and place of birth that basically gives you your energetic DNA. So what I mean by that is how you're meant to make decisions, communicate, work within teams, cultivate relationships, digest food, all the things. So it's just kind of meant to give us like, what is our unique blueprint for thriving? And it's so magical knowing that we're all meant to do things totally differently, build businesses differently, be in a relationship differently. So human design really validates that. And in terms of its comparison to astrology or Enneagram, astrology does play a role in human design, but it pulls from lots of different systems. So it pulls from the Kabbalah, the I Ching, the chakra system, quantum physics. Like the idea is that it pulls all these systems, into one master system to kind of give us our blueprint. And in terms of Enneagram, also such an amazing tool. Enneagram is self-diagnosed, where we kind of answer questions based on who we think we are. And it's a little bit easier to mistype, but human design is based on the exact time, date, and place of birth. So we're not diagnosing ourselves. And what's so interesting is that human design not only reveals all the things that we're conscious of, but also all the things that we are unconscious of and underneath the surface. So answering questions wouldn't even probably get to those deeper pieces.
Okay, that makes sense. I had never thought about that regarding the Enneagram. We had an Enneagram person on here, that was a super interesting interview. I'll drop that in the show notes for anybody that missed it. But yeah, you answer, it's a lot of questions. I felt like it was 170 or something. And I could see how, I could see how I could do this. Like you answer a question a little bit based on how you want to be or how you want 100%. The world to perceive you.
Or why you're answering it. Like if a team is asking you to do it, it's like, okay, this is how I want to show up here. So it is so swayed on that for sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because I know that some people use these kinds of personality tests in the workplace, especially like StrengthsFinder and Myers-Briggs. Yeah. So I can see how people would be like, well, I don't really want anyone to know that I have a hard time making decisions
and that's not to dismiss those systems. Those systems are I was just advising an Enneagram coach last night, and it was so fun talking about the differences. I think that they're just so useful and so different. And when I work with teams, they're like, what? All you need is my birth information? But I think that once they kind of get a taste of what the information actually offers, it makes sense to them. And they're like, this is actually so nice that that's all I have to give you.
What I have found in these types of tests, and I love all of the ones that everything from astrology. I've also done the DISC assessment, which has been really helpful for me, especially as an entrepreneur.
Amazing.
What I love learning about them when I read my own results is, for me as a woman, especially, I find it very validating, especially the traits that typically and maybe culturally are not encouraged in us.
100%.
Because it makes me feel like a sigh of relief, like, oh, okay, this is just how I'm designed. Like, granted, there are some things personality traits that can kind of quote unquote get me in trouble that I need to work on, where at my worst aren't great, but I do think it's validating. Do you find that to be the case with your clients?
More than anything else, I think that it just gives people permission to be who they are. Like, I think I was just messaging with a client this morning where he's just like, you know what? Like, I knew all these things. I just never allowed myself to step into any of them, And so I think what human design, exactly. And I love that, where I'm sitting with people and it's not about telling them a foreign language and all this jargon. It's very much like, oh my God, you're just laying out exactly who I am, but I have never fully honored that part of me, because so often we make ourselves wrong for the things that make us great, or we try to be the things that we're not, And so I think human design just really tunes us into what uniquely works for us. And we often feel such a sense of relief when we hear it. It's like, oh my God, I get to be myself.
Can you give us an example of maybe, from yourself or one of your clients, and how it can help them in their day-to-day life?
Totally. So I was introduced to human design in 2015, and I will just share briefly about that kind of first encounter, because that was really what introduced me to the first tools. But I'm a projector in human design. And I sat down in this conversation. I'd never heard of human design, and I had spent my life just trying to be a doer. You've got a lot of creative energy in your design. You are meant to be a doer. Me, not so much. And I was just really trying to keep up. And I sat down with this guy, and he was like, Erin, you are a much better leader and guide and manager than you are a doer. And it just my whole system relaxed. I was like, what? He was just you're really you're so gifted at understanding people and how they work. It's good for you to find a system that helps them understand how they work, but you're just not here to do all the doing, And so that honestly reoriented me in all the ways. I have now always had a generator business partner, a manifesting generator business partner. I know that's human design language, but those are creative people that have the energy to make things happen. And so I think I learned very early on that I just wasn't meant to do it all on my own, and that I really was such a better guide for other people than I was at doing all the doing myself. I also like a very simple piece is we all have different ways of making decisions. And so I'm an emotional authority in human design, which means that I'm really not meant to make decisions in the moment, And so I had historically been incredibly impulsive and just regretted things very quickly. You're actually very similar to me in this way, but it's really healthy for me to sleep on things and just like give myself a beat before I commit, because clarity comes with time. Whereas for other people, like it's really like they've got to talk things out, they've got to they have a gut response in the moment. So there's so many layers, but I think at the highest level, human design helps us know how we're meant to make decisions, which we're doing every day, how we're meant to create the right opportunities for ourselves, like whether you're meant to wait for an invitation or initiate or wait for something to kind of light up your gut, and also how you're meant to use your energy. Like, are you a doer and a creator and a builder, or does your energy operate a little bit more in spurts, or are you not a doer? And so I think that there are such simple pieces that can really just reframe and reshape how we show up every day. And that's on an individual level. Then when you look at partnership and teams and how to kind of work with people, there's so much more information around that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And later on in the show, we're going to tell people how they can, learn their own human design. And so you mentioned a couple, like a manifester and a couple of other words. Can you tell us about the different types?
Of course. So one piece I'll just share is that human design, there are billions of configurations. Everybody's incredibly unique, but at the highest level, there are 5 different types. So manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors, and manifestors. And so manifesting generator, so you're a manifesting generator, which I think you know, right? Or no?
I don't.
Okay.
Cool. So
okay.
Everybody listening, Erin did my chart. And Erin and I don't know each other prior to the show. We are just meeting for the first time. I feel like I'm setting up a magic trick or something right now. I just plucked her out of the audience. No. And my team gave you my birthday and you needed my place of birth, right?
Yeah.
And the exact
place,
time.
Yeah. And date.
Okay. And I don't know what it is yet. So we can talk about that later, but if you want to slip things in as you talk, go for it.
That sounds good. And just so the audience knows, she doesn't know anything. So you'll be able to hear very, immediately whether or not she resonates with it or not.
Okay.
So manifesting generators and generators are basically the ones that are meant to have the energy and the life force to kind of build and create and make things happen. So both you and generators are kind of meant to wake up in the morning with a full tank of energy to use up your energy in super satisfying ways, whether it's, work-related, parenting, exercising, any of the things, and kind of go to bed exhausted and fulfilled. The more you're using your energy in ways that feel really exciting to you and really fulfilling to you, the more energy you'll have and the more you'll uplift everyone around you. It is so amazing to be around a manifesting generator or a generator that's lit up by what they're doing, because their energy is so magnetic and uplifting and sparkly, and you just want to be around it.
People have told me that before. Well, I'm curious, because to me, I'm isn't everybody like that?
Exactly. Not so much. Yeah, totally.
So there's differences. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm curious about the other ones and how they're different from what you just described. Shopify's already taken the cash register online, helping millions sell billions around the world. But did you know that Shopify can do the same thing at your retail store? Give your point of sale system a serious upgrade with Shopify. With Shopify, you get a powerhouse selling partner that effortlessly unites your in-person and online sales into one source of truth. Track every sale across your business in one place and know exactly what's in stock. Connect with customers inline and online. Shopify helps you drive store traffic with plug-and-play tools built for marketing campaigns from TikTok to Instagram and beyond. Get hardware that fits your business. Take payments by smartphone, transform your tablet into a point of sale system, or use Shopify's POS Go mobile device for a battle-tested solution. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/noise, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/noise to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/noise. Today's podcast is sponsored by MIDI Health. Ladies, are you over 40 like me and dealing with hot flashes, insomnia, brain fog, moodiness, some vaginal dryness, or weight gain? Don't just accept it as part of aging. These symptoms are often linked to hormonal changes during perimenopause and menopause. At MIDI Health, they get it. Their experts know what you're going through and how to help. MIDI clinicians are menopause specialists offering safe, effective, FDA-approved solutions. And guess what? MIDI care is covered by insurance. So stop pushing through it alone. Schedule a virtual visit and dive deep into your unique symptoms and health background. You'll walk away feeling heard and with a plan to start feeling better. Visit MIDI Health today and reclaim your well-being. You deserve to feel great. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com. joinmidi.com.
Of course. And let me just quickly distinguish between manifesting generators and generators, because generators are more kind of here to be just like really master one thing, go deep into a thing when it's time moving on. Manifesting generators, your type, you're meant to do lots of things at once.
Right.
You're kind of multi-passionate by nature, and you're not really meant to like have a super linear career or put yourself into one box. And so for you, it's about like letting go of something when the energy is no longer there. It's like, okay, this was great. I'm like done with the program, on to the next thing. And it's like being like, yeah, I'm a podcast host and a coach and a mom and all the things. Like you're meant to be all the things that is your magic. And so often manifesting generators have been made to feel scattered or like they're doing too much. But they often kind of need that level of stimulation to kind of be excited and feel successful.
Okay, that's interesting, because what you described about that, I feel like you described my husband, the people who will focus on one thing for a long time and go very deep in it and don't get distracted by other things. And that sounds like my husband. Yeah. I am exactly what you described. I have lots, and I'm actually kind of going through a little bit of a shift in my business, and I felt really bad about myself. Like, why can't I just do that thing that I've done for so long that worked? And I just don't want to anymore. And it's kind of like I've mastered it and I'm ready to move on, and I've put it to bed and I'm ready to do this new thing, which I'm super excited about. And I keep doing this over and over. Yes. And some people might say, can't you just like stick to the thing that's working? Like, 100%. Why change it?
Yeah. Okay. And like your energy, both for generators and for manifesting generators, it's just like the guy, like what you have the energy for and what you feel lit up by is absolutely meant to be the thing that drives you. And then the strategy briefly for both of those types is basically magnetism. You're not really meant to chase after a thing. Life is meant to come to you. And your work is to kind of keep your awareness open and see what lights up your gut. Make sense?
Oh my God. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. If you were here, I would kiss you on the face.
Good.
But I would get consent first.
Of course. So I love that. Okay. So then we have projectors. So projectors are not really here to be the doers. Projectors are really amazing leaders and guides and managers.
Oh, so this is what you are.
This is what I am.
Okay.
Not really here to do all the doing. And so often our energy is really going to operate in ebbs and flows. And often projectors just like love anything that helps them understand people. So that means they can be like an amazing coach or a therapist or a CEO or a manager, like really orienting their energy towards like helping guide other people's energy, you know, not because they're telling them what to do, but because they're like asking the right questions. And projectors have this very penetrating energy that can make people feel incredibly seen and incredibly recognized. And so much of the work for us as projectors is like not finding our worth in how hard we're working or how much we're doing, but more in our perspective and in our ability to guide. One of our biggest shadows is doing too much. So I'm definitely vulnerable to just being like, I've got to keep up, I've got to do more, you know, but I think that has been it's been a big lesson for me in learning how to honor those ebbs and flows. And the strategy for projectors is basically waiting for a sense of invitation and recognition. The idea is because you bring such a unique energy to the table, it is so important to feel like you are so invited in and recognized to share your gifts when you're like working with someone or dating someone or living with someone. I just want to remind the projectors out there, it's not meant to be a strategy that holds you back in any way. You know, your job as a projector is to make yourself visible, share about who you are and what you do in a really broad, accessible, inspired way, and let the right people come.
Okay. Yes. All right. So those are projectors.
Those are projectors. And then we have manifestors and reflectors left. So manifestors are basically the ones that are here to initiate, not always here to do all the doing, but often just to get something started and get it off the ground. Manifestors often thrive with a lot of freedom and autonomy and control. They're really not here to be told what to do or managed or guided in any way. They can struggle a little bit in a corporate environment if they're being micromanaged or told what to do. And so they often thrive in a more entrepreneurial space, or if they're working for a company and are just given total freedom, and a big lesson for them is like initiating, but not always like doing all the doing. So also similar to you, knowing when to hand things off. And also I
was going to say, like, I know those people and I get along with them very well.
Yeah. Because you've got a taste of that in your design, with the manifesting part of the generator, it's like you have some manifestor energy for sure. And the strategy for manifestors is about initiating. They're here to like make the first move, get things started, be like super unapologetic and and strong in who they are, and trust that by doing that, they'll impact the right people. And I will say that so often the manifestors that I worked with have not felt permission to be as powerful as they are, because they're a minority. They're 8 to 9% of the population. So it's really been a lesson for them in learning to kind of trust themselves in that way.
Okay. And then last is, did you say reflector?
Reflectors. So reflectors are the most rare 1% of the population, and basically people that are incredibly sensitive to their physical environment. And you actually are incredibly sensitive to your physical environment too. But this kind of defines this type where they really magnify whatever space they're in. So it's so important to kind of make sure their city feels good, their home feels good, their office feels good, the restaurant they go on a date on feels good. Like it's going to inform their experience and the opportunities they attract. The magic of reflectors is how fluid they are. They're going to have periods where they feel like a manifesting generator, like a generator, like a projector, like a manifestor. And the work is to not try to be just one of those things, but to ask themselves each day, like, what feels like me today? And like honor this like really natural fluidity of how they express themselves, because they're just not meant to do it in one way. And often reflectors need a lot of solitude. They thrive being around people that uplift them, but they also need plenty of time to kind of pull away and release all the energy that's not theirs. And they have a very unique way of making decisions where they're actually meant to give themselves a full 30 days before they make a big decision. I will say that is not always feasible, but I think that they really need to sample things from so many different angles to truly assess whether or not something's correct.
Okay.
So those are the types.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And like I said, we're going to tell you how you can have your own, figure out who you are, what kind of human design you are in just a few minutes here. So can you talk to us a little bit about the different ways of making decisions?
Yes, of course. So this is called our inner authority. So when you look up your human design, and we'll include a link, if you look at the inner authority, that's what we're referencing. And it's basically just like how you're meant to assess whether or not something's correct for you. And so you and I are both emotional authorities. And that basically means that, you actually have a very strong gut response in your design. But for the big decisions, it's actually healthy for both you and I to really sleep on things and to like feel into things, because if we're making a decision on a high or low, it's so easy to regret it. It's not that initial instinct is incorrect. We just need a moment to validate whether it really is right for us.
I always tell people that I'm always super transparent. And I'm like, I just told this with the last coach I hired. I said, I tend to make emotional, impulsive decisions, because I didn't know anything about this human design thing. That's exactly what I told her. And I said, I want to hire you. It feels really good, but I've regretted choices like that before. So I need to sleep on it. And I did hire her, and it's been phenomenal. So
exactly.
On, Erin.
No, I love that. I love that example, because then it allows you to enter into things from such a clear and calm place. You're like, I felt into it, and it's just right. Whereas if you're like on the high or the low, that uncertainty like persists throughout the entire thing. And so,
and I've entered relationships. I've entered romantic relationships from that place of like just high intensity and there was some love addiction problems too. Like, let's not just ignore that. But that I learned from that. And, now I'm in my 40s and I'm like, okay, I love that about me. And at the same time, it would probably benefit me to not ignore it and go the opposite direction, but just to take a beat. That's all.
Take a beat. Exactly. And it's just like, and trusting that like time is medicine for you, it's just like, let me just give myself 24 hours, 48 hours and just see how it changes, see if I'm still excited. And I love that you mentioned romantic relationships, because I always say courtship is so good for these people, just like really allowing yourself to feel into somebody on so many different like places in your emotional wave to really make sure they're right for you. So those are emotional decision makers. We also have sacral decision makers. This basically is all about trusting your gut response in the moment. So like I said, you've actually got a super strong gut response in your design, meant to use it for all the small decisions. But there are some people that are meant to use it for all the big decisions too. It's like gut in the moment tells them. For you, it's gut over time. So if you're sacral, it's all about follow your gut, listen to your gut. Like there's obviously so much advice out there of like, follow your gut. Like not all of us have that connection, like I don't have a strong gut response. So I'm always like, I don't totally know what that feels like. So sacral authority, gut response in the moment. One very quick thing I would share, a really powerful way to access that gut response, this would be true for you too, is to ask these people really specific questions. So instead of being like, my partner's a sacral authority. So instead of being like, what do you want to eat for dinner? I would ask him, do you want to eat this or this? Do you want to go here or here? When you ask those specific yes, no questions, it allows these people to get straight out of their head and into their gut.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Okay. So then we've got splenic decision makers. This is all about trusting your intuition in the moment. Intuition is different than the gut. It is a very kind of just like spontaneous knowing or resonance that you have or tingles that you feel or voice that you hear. These people are meant to be incredibly impulsive in their decision making. And so their work is to get quiet enough to hear their intuition and then courageous enough to act once they hear it.
Did you say splenic, like for your spleen?
Yeah, it's the spleen.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. When you look at the chart, I'll send it to you so you can look at it. It's like all the different centers correspond to different parts of the body and also just different parts of our lives. Then we have ego or heart decision makers. This is basically about making decisions based on like what you desire to do and like what you really have the willpower to make happen. And these people are meant to be like very selfish in their decision making. Like, will this decision truly take care of me? There are self-projected decision makers, which is basically all about talking things out. So for these people, their truth comes when they give it a voice. So the best thing they can do is surround themselves by people that they trust and just talk things out and see what emerges. There are mental decision makers, which is for projectors, and it will say none if you look it up. And this is basically also about talking things out, but in lots of different spaces that feel good and kind of seeing what emerges. Again, not because you're looking for other people's opinions, but because you're actually letting it just like come out of your own mouth. And then there are reflectors, and those are called lunar decision makers. So that's the one I reference where they're meant to give themselves a full 28 to 30 days before they make a big decision. And because they need to sample something from so many different angles. So again, from my reflectors, you might not be able to give yourself that full time. So I would just honor the fact that you operate on a different set of rules and a different sense of timing than most people. So giving yourself as much time as you can. So that's a taste.
Oh my gosh. Do you need a rest after all of that? Like,
honestly, I do this all the time. I'm used to it, but it's a lot. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love this so much. It's hard to find a great mentor who can help me level up. My dream mentor, Shonda Rhimes. So I was really excited when I heard she has a class on Masterclass. With Masterclass, you can learn from the best to become your best. Masterclass is the only streaming platform where you can learn and grow with over 200 plus of the world's best. For just $10 a month, an annual membership with Masterclass gets you unlimited access to every instructor. And you can access Masterclass on your phone, computer, smart TV, or even in audio mode. I'm always looking for ways to be a better writer, so I took Shonda Rhimes' screenwriting class. It helped me gain concrete technical advice, including structuring, the writing process, and with shows under her belt like Grey's Anatomy and Bridgerton, it was so helpful. Plus, every new membership comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Don't wait another moment to start your learning journey with Masterclass. Right now, our listeners get an additional 15% off any annual membership at masterclass.com/Andrea. That's 15% off at masterclass.com/Andrea. masterclass.com/Andrea. You know when you're listening to a song on the radio and you get the profound feeling that the song playing was written about you? Now imagine having the power to gift that same incredible feeling to someone you love with an original song from Songfinch that actually is written just for them. Songfinch lets you create an original radio quality song inspired by your own life and the people you love. It's completely unique, personal, and lasts forever. Whether your song is for Father's Day, an upcoming graduation, wedding, or anniversary, or even just a gift to show your loved one how much you care, start your song now to lock in one of Songfinch's top artists. I gifted Songfinch to myself, a song about my late father, and I'm so excited to play you a clip.
Flipping through the slides of learning how to live and how to love, and coming undone a father, daughters without, so she writes it down.
One of my clients heard about Songfinch from this podcast, and so she had a song created for her son who is graduating, and she told me that they both cried when she played it for him and that it exceeded her expectations. For a limited time, Songfinch is letting our listeners upload their song to Spotify for free, so you and the lucky person you gift it to can listen to it anywhere, anytime. Go to songfinch.com/noise and start your song. After you purchase, you'll be prompted to add Spotify streaming for your original song for free, a $50 value. Again, my URL is songfinch.com/noise. Don't forget to share your song with us too. songfinch.com/noise. Okay, I have a couple of questions about especially because the vast majority of my audience is women listening to this. And I know that a lot of them struggle with perfectionism and some anxiety, and since human design is a tool for higher performance, how can people who struggle, who refer to themselves as recovering perfectionists, use this tool without trying to be perfect at using it? Like, do you encounter that with some of your clients, and what's your advice?
Yeah. I mean, I think that like the idea with experimenting with your human design is very much not like you like nail it the first day and you're like, I'm good. I think that like it reveals all the areas in which we're meant to kind of like learn and grow. And so I think that I recommend people use it as a thing to just like keep checking back in on, and just making sure they're making decisions in a way that operates in alignment, that they're like, using their energy in a way that feels good to them. And so I don't think I've really encountered often people that are like, I'm trying to get it perfect. They just like so quickly can like identify where they're getting taken off track and exactly what aspects of their design are taking them off track. And so they can more easily kind of move back into alignment. I think that like, I just want to remind people that it's a thing to experiment with. Like I have been working with and teaching human design for 5 years. And like, I still get pulled into my shadow all the time. And I just like, but I know it when it happens. My partner knows it when it happens. And I so easily just like move back. So I think it's such an organic thing. And I think that, our lives are just going to be this constant, we'll just get more and more into alignment. And often I find the more we align with our design, just like the more magic emerges for us. So, I think that like, I would just treat it as a thing that is playful. I also think that like there are aspects of our design that can really reveal the perfectionist piece. So I think there are pieces that can also speak to how to work with that best.
Okay. Well, and you mentioned the shadow. Can you talk to us about how you help people overcome those dark spots or shadows?
Yeah.
How can human design help?
So there are basically areas in our design. We call these open centers. If you look at your chart, they're the areas that are white. These are the areas where you are the most sensitive to other people's energy and the areas where you can get the most taken off track. So do you mind if we use you as an example just to give people a taste?
Okay.
Cool.
I'm ready.
Okay, cool. And I can talk about some of mine too. So, some of the potential shadows, and I say shadows, but like the point is to actually evolve into the wisdom in all these areas. It's just where you're here to learn. So you actually have an open spleen. And so it basically means that the shadow for you is a tendency to hold on to things for too long. It's like holding on to old jobs or partners or programs because they give you a sense of security or certainty, but not because they actually still light you up or excite you. And the wisdom for you, the lesson you're here to learn is to take risks, is to let go, is to not hold on to anything just because it offers you that sense of certainty. And because that's an area in which you're meant to learn, that is ultimately an area in which you're meant to teach other people.
Okay. Yeah.
That resonate with you?
It totally does. And I think a lot of the things that I've held on to is from a few things: obligation, history, also people pleasing.
Yep.
And I will say I've gotten better about that over the years as I've gotten older. And part of it is because I trust my intuition more.
Yep, exactly. And you're letting that guide the show rather than what you think you should do.
Right.
And I would also say a big lesson in general for manifesting generators is boundaries. Like you've got so much life force and amazing energy that if you're saying yes to things just because you think you should or because somebody asked you, it depletes your battery so quickly. But when you're like truly letting your desires guide you and being like, what I'm lit up by is exactly what I meant to do, it's like everyone benefits, And so much of your lesson is like learning to kind of trust that rather than like, how can I please everyone else?
Oh my gosh. So as we're recording this, I'm dealing with a conflict in my life where I set a boundary with someone and I felt guilty about it and then started to question that I had done it and then let that person back in out of guilt and feeling badly and, and doubting my intuition and thinking to myself, like, am I just a asshole for doing that? Or was it truly my intuition telling me I needed to set that boundary a few years ago? So I let this person back in and they clearly showed me who they are. I mean, it was so obvious when I let them back in, how they were behaving. It was like neon sign, like, yes, you should have set that boundary and need to reset it. And so if I ever doubted that I needed to do that, the universe showed up and was like, here you go. Here's your answer. So I found that very interesting.
Yeah. And I think totally. And it's such a powerful reminder that whatever our inner authority is, none of our authority is about making decisions from our mind. So like we can often not explain how we know what we know, you know? And so for you, that like gut, that feeling that you had is not explicable. It's not a thing where like, I know exactly why I should set this boundary and shut this person
And it
out.
didn't make logical sense.
It's not supposed to, you know, our bodies just know things that we cannot totally conceive with our minds. And so I think the work is really in trusting that. But often like it'll come back and we'll learn it again until like we are like, okay, I understand that truth is coming from this, you know?
Yeah, it was painful.
And I would say two quick areas, two other potential shadows. You and I share one, which is like our open ego. And it basically means that this shadow is a tendency to overcommit, overcompensate, try to kind of prove yourself and prove your worth and that you're a good mom and a good coach and all the things.
It's the hustle, as Brene Brown calls it.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of people have this one open, and the wisdom of this center, which has been so powerful for me, and I'm still working on it, is knowing that we've got nothing to prove. And if we're ever doing something or saying something out of that desire to prove, it's often just not going to be the right motivation for us.
That's, I just want to stop and pause for all of the listeners to acknowledge how difficult that is. And it's a lifelong journey. I think, especially for women, men struggle here too. It just looks different. But I think for women, we are constantly trying to prove our worth through how productive we are, through how beautiful we are, through what good women and mothers we are, et cetera, et cetera. So lifelong journey. Lifelong. Keep on keeping on.
Yeah. And it's such a reminder of the perfectionist question of just like, again, it's not about figuring it out. It's bringing it into your awareness so you can move through it and not let it drive your decision making.
Right.
The last one I would share for you is you also have an open identity center. And this basically means that you are meant to have a very fluid way of expressing yourself. And so, which means you might express yourself differently based on who you're around and where you are. The shadow of this center is always trying to figure out who you are. It's like, I've got to find the perfect job and the perfect partner and the perfect like place to live and work and the perfect like way of expressing myself. And the wisdom for you is knowing that how you express yourself is meant to always change and always evolve. And so not asking yourself, who am I? But like, what feels like me today? And knowing that you're incredibly sensitive to your physical space. So being in the right space is such a powerful tool to kind of make sure you're attracting in the right people and opportunities and all the things.
Oh my gosh.
Do you feel that one?
Yeah. And I've had, let's see, I don't want to reveal too much.
Yeah.
But I definitely, depending on who I'm hanging out with, my energy will go up or down, and none of it is wrong. Like I'm not faking it anywhere.
Exactly.
And I've had people say like, wow, you are different. And it's not different in a way of, they thought, it's hard to explain. And I think people who are like this probably are nodding their heads. Yeah. But it really, I love that you use the word, the fluidity of it. And it's just, I'm able to adapt energetically depending on who I'm hanging around. And it's all of it is who I am. None of it is, again, none of it is faking it or trying to like do this little dance for other people. Sometimes it is, but I catch myself. But for the most part, it's just who I am. And that's me at my biggest and brightest.
So
but
cool.
I felt wrong for it.
Totally.
Like I should be more consistent. Like that's what I've told myself.
Yeah. And again, that's such we so often make ourselves wrong for the things that make us great. Like your magic is so much in the fluidity, it's just like, this is who I am today. And this is who I am today. And like, they're all authentic. They're all parts of me. So like, how can I just create space for all that to emerge?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are, and then the one other one that's big for you is just a tendency to potentially, you have the potential to be super inspired and have tons of ideas. But the shadow is just like losing focus and feeling super scattered. And just trying to pursue
I'm like, she's going to say follow through.
Yeah. And so the biggest work for you is knowing that not every idea is worth pursuing. And also
my team is listening to this episode and they are laughing.
Oh my God. They're like,
I do this so often to them, change directions. And they're like, oh, there she goes, changing her mind again.
Well, because you can be so, you can be so excited by all the things, but I think the work for you is to really let your gut drive you in terms of like, do I actually have the energy for this thing? And am I sleeping on it? Am I like making the right commitments and not being super impulsive? Because again, you also even have a strength in your design of just like being like an endless well of ideas. And so I think that like, it's releasing the pressure to pursue them all and like sharing them so they can inspire other people, but being so discerning about what you choose to put your energy to.
This is why I'm also really good at, I have a lot of ideas for other people's businesses.
Exactly.
And I get super excited. And sometimes I want it more than they do.
Totally.
Yeah, or other people's lives. And yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Your ideas are like here to serve other people. Like they're here to just inspire other people. So I love that you're, living in that.
Okay. I have another question before we tell people where to go to be able to pull their own design. Actually, I have two. This is hopefully a short one. What about people how do they explain? So the story is I was due on April 1st. I was due on April Fool's Day, was not here by April 15th. And they induced labor for my mother. And she says that I came out pouting because I was not ready to be born yet. And she thinks I was supposed to be born on April 18th, not April 15th. So what's the explanation for that?
Yeah. I mean, I think with human design, it doesn't matter when you were supposed to or what the due date was. What matters is like when you actually came out of your mom's belly.
Took your first breath.
Exactly. Whether it's a C-section, whether it's a natural birth, whatever it is. So it's like the moment you like come out into the world it's like, that's the time that kind of, there's that imprint of like, this is your design.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. This is my last question.
Okay.
So I love on your website where it says that you help women make that full-bodied yes, know with their body that it's a yes. So can you explain to us how can women use human design to make choices that are full body yeses?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's so much about what we were talking about releasing the need to make every decision from our mind. I think what human design has taught me is that if we try to like rationalize every decision, we can probably convince ourselves in or out of anything. And so I think what human design will do for you is connect you to the part of your body and the part of your design that is really a reliable way to make decisions for you. And so when you enter into things, it's from like, just like such a clear place, like this is right for me. I might have no idea why or where it's taking me, but it just feels right. And again, that shows up in a little bit of a different way for each of us. But I think that bringing that clarity into our decision-making is transformative because how we enter things is everything, And so I think that, I would really recommend people, if anything, look at their inner authority and kind of connect to that piece so they can make decisions from a very full-bodied place.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I want to both go and look more into my own design and take a nap because it's just super exciting. And I'm excited for the listeners to learn more about themselves as well and to embrace their true personality. So tell us where people can go. You have a special discount code and all that good stuff. So tell us where people can go to be able to learn their own human design.
Yes. So I'm Erin Claire Jones everywhere. I share that on Instagram, Erin Claire Jones there. And my website is erinclairejones.com. And a beautiful offering to get started is something called the Blueprint, which is basically a 30+ page like written guide to your unique design. So it's something that I make personally and it walks you through all the key pieces of your design. So you can use the discount code KICKASS for that. Is that right?
Yeah. Kick-ass, all one word.
Kick-ass, all one word. So erinclairejones.com/blueprint. And then I offer individual sessions, partnership sessions, team sessions, workshops, all that good stuff. And that's on my website too.
And we'll have all that information in the show notes for those of you that missed it. And this has been so exciting. Thank you so much. And
such a pleasure.
And everybody who goes and follows her on Instagram, tell her that you heard her here. And I feel like I want to have you back on to dig deeper.
God, right?
I felt like this was Human Design 101, was it not?
It was. It's like there's so much. So yes, I would love to come back and go deeper.
Okay. Yeah. We'll do that next year. And thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
I know how valuable all of your time is, you, Erin, and all of the listeners. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And until next time, Ass Kickers, I will see you all out in cyberspace. Bye-bye.
I'd like to introduce you to the Minimalist Moms podcast. It's hard enough being a mom, and the last thing you need is stress from too much stuff and an overcrowded schedule. For too long, I lived with the mindset that bigger was better, and the more I added to my life, instead of feeling better, I felt overwhelmed. It was time for a radical new mindset. Less is more. I'm not into extremes. I didn't throw everything away. My brand of minimalism is more about adding than subtracting. Get rid of the excess to make room for what you love. In other words, it's about living life with purpose. I hope you'll listen in, and my guest and myself can inspire you to think more and do with less. The Minimalist Moms Podcast, available wherever you listen to podcasts.